Right now, in the studio, it's Coralina Caroli. I welcome the viewers of Freedom. Let's get straight to the important news. Ukraine will undoubtedly stand strong against Russia. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, congratulated Ukrainians on Defenders' Day. The head of state highlighted the heroism of the soldiers in their fight against the Russian occupiers. And according to the president, throughout its history, Ukraine has faced many challenges, but has outlasted everyone who wanted to destroy it. Ukraine will endure this war as well. The president stated this during the ceremony of the cadets' oath and the presentation of state awards on the occasion of Defenders' Day.
Today is the day of millions of brave people, millions of Ukrainians from different regions who stand together. Ukrainians are not defending themselves from Russia for the first time, but now they are doing it more wisely and effectively than ever before. And right now, we need to defend ourselves in such a way that our children, all future generations, are guaranteed freedom from war, terror, attacks, from any threats. That is our goal. This means that Ukraine will definitely not lose the strength it has gained over the years of war, the greatest in our history.
Russian troops struck Chernihiv region with Iskander missiles. As a result of the shelling, a man was killed. This was reported by the head of the Regional Military Administration, Vyacheslav Chas. According to him, agricultural enterprise equipment was hit and a residential house was destroyed. In addition, energy facilities were also under attack. In total, over the past day, Russia attacked 16 settlements in the Chernihiv region 40 times. And in the Kiev region, due to a morning attack by Russian drones, a fire broke out in a two-story building in the Bucha and Vyshhorod districts. According to the State Emergency Service, there were no casualties. 11 rescuers and 2 units of Kornabil NPP emergency equipment were involved in eliminating the aftermath of the drone strike. 8 people were injured as a result of a combined Russian strike on Kharkiv and its surroundings. The invaders attacked the city with guided aerial bombs and the suburbs with ballistic missiles. 4 hits were recorded in 3 locations. Dozens of cars, residential buildings, garages, an office, and the Berabashova market were on fire. You can find more details about this in the report by my colleague Natalie Bellacudri.
The fire at the Berabashova market broke out on the night of October 1st. The flames immediately engulfed the retail stalls. Smoke from the fire, which covered an area of about 3,000 square meters, could be seen from different parts of Kharkiv.
Peace.com.
About 100 stalls burned to the ground, and just as many were severely damaged. Andre sells women's clothing, and his shop is among those hit by the shelling. Earlier this year, all his goods were destroyed by fire. He admits that the losses back then amounted to millions of hryvnias. And now there's been another attack.
On May 6th, it hit again. 2 of our stores caught fire. Absolutely nothing was left. This is the 2nd time already. Well, here, it's just on the surface. Everything that was on the edge got ruined. There were no military targets here. It's sad that they're hitting our entrepreneurs.
Vladimir is cleaning up the debris. His 2-story pavilion was partially damaged. The man was already at the market by 5 a.m. He says the fire hadn't been fully put out yet, and he saw his fellow business owner's property burning.
The goods just got all dusty, Well, some glass got broken. Some things too. But compared to those whose stuff burned down completely, it's not so bad.
The blast wave blew out the doors of the chapel, which is also located at the market.
At 5 in the morning, I got a call saying the church was damaged. When I arrived, the doors had been blown out. All the icons were lying on the floor. The shockwave knocked everything down. Well, thank God, everything held up. Thank God.
The market administration says that this time, the fabric hub was hit. The amount of damage caused by the Russian bomb hasn't been named yet, but one thing is certain. The business owners will be relocated to new spots.
The consequences are still being clarified right now. Once we know, we'll be able to answer. But first and foremost, it's about the losses suffered by the business owners. We're already in talks about where to relocate them. We already have some idea.
In addition to the strike on the Barabashova market, the Russian army destroyed a private house in the Saltitsky district. They also damaged 12 more residential houses, destroyed 15 garages, and 13 cars. Natalia Belakudry and Andrei Domovoy from Kharkiv, reporting for Freedom TV channel.
Russia attacked Ukraine with nearly 50 strike drones, as well as 4 ballistic missiles and an Iskander Mk and 23. This was reported by the air forces of the armed forces of Ukraine. The air attacks were repelled by aviation, electronic warfare units, and mobile fire groups of Ukraine's defense forces using drone systems. According to preliminary data, air defense shot down or suppressed 44 drones. For the second day in a row, Dnipro is dealing with the aftermath of the Russian attack on the city center. On the afternoon of September 30th, Russian occupiers launched 4 shahids at Dnipro. 1 person was killed, and about 30 were injured. The strike hit a street with office buildings, residential houses, educational and medical institutions, and an art museum. Natalia Belakudry reports on yet another Russian war crime. Natalie Husser, my apologies.
24 plastic bottles with drinks. That's all that survived in Alexander's small coffee shop. He opened it on the first floor of an office building in the middle of summer. He already had regular customers, but in the middle of the workday on September 30th, his business was destroyed by Russian attack drones. Miraculously, the barista girl survived.
She was near.
The coffee machine and this concrete corner here saved her life, because otherwise she would have been cut up by all that glass. It flew right past her, because the blast tore apart the fridge and sent all the bottles flying. But if she had been in that area, she would have died.
Last night, the Russian army launched a massive drone strike near the Dnipro, sending 4 Shahid drones toward this office building. The 5th floor here is completely destroyed, and the others are heavily damaged. Most of those who were injured during the explosions were in their offices at the time. Sergei says his brother Yaroslav was also in the office, sitting by the window. His injuries were so severe that the medics couldn't save the 27-year-old man.
He was building his career.
He had just started to succeed. He was developing himself and his career. He got married just a week and a half ago. They really loved each other. This is a very painful loss. He was always ready to help his friends and family. He loved animals very much. Look, there's a lot of pet food in the car. He was collecting it for the animal shelter.
In the most heavily damaged office building, massage therapists, cosmetologists, dentists, and several dozen small businesses worked in private offices. There was a flower shop on the first floor. At the moment of the strike, the owner managed to step into the back room. Because of that, she wasn't hurt, but she experienced severe stress. Her friends have been supporting her since last night. Last night, it was like this in the dark.
Yesterday, in the darkness, she was in a state of shock, but today she sees with her own eyes that she has lost everything. That's why her reaction is a bit different today. And we're giving her as much support as we can in this situation. She has friends, and she's not alone. And we'll be with her. But for now, she has lost her business.
In addition to this building, other office complexes, residential buildings, educational and medical institutions, and an art museum were also damaged. All the windows in it were blown out. Fortunately, neither people nor the museum's collection were harmed.
The facade of our museum building was badly damaged. Windows and entrance doors were blown out. But most importantly, our staff are alive and well. They used our shelter. We thought we were somehow protected because we're in the city center. There are no military or anyone else here.
For the second day, utility services have been working at the site of the Shahid drone attack, evacuating damaged cars, cleaning up glass, and covering broken windows with USB boards. Police have already received more than 200 reports of damaged property. Natalia Husey, reporting from Dnipro for Freedom TV channel.
Ukrainian defense forces eliminated 920 Russian servicemen over the past day. Thus, The total combat losses of the Russian army have exceeded 1,111,000 soldiers. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In addition, over the past day, 1 Russian tank, 3 armored combat vehicles, 13 artillery systems, and 33 units of enemy automotive and special equipment were destroyed. There were 155 combat clashes on the front line over the past day. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian invaders made 51 attempts to break through Ukrainian defenses. In the Novopavlivka direction, they attacked 24 times. In the Lyman direction, 15 enemy assaults were stopped. Ukrainian forces also thwarted 14 more breakthrough attempts on the Torets direction and stopped 7 attacks by Russian occupiers in the Severoslobodansk and Kursk directions. Suspicious drone flights were recorded over strategic sites in northern Germany, according to the German publication Bild. In particular, several drones flew over the shipyard in Kiel, the university hospital, a power plant, as well as near the local parliament building and even an oil refinery. According to internal documents, the drones were moving in parallel. This suggests an attempt to scout the area. Similar incidents occurred in neighboring regions of Germany. Experts note the similarity to a series of recent incidents in Denmark. There, let me remind you, airports temporarily suspended operations because of drones. Let me also remind you that the authorities are not ruling out a Russian connection. In the Russian city of Yaroslavl, a fire broke out at an oil refinery. Local residents report that a large-scale fire has been recorded in the area of the facility. It can be seen from far away. Videos and photos from the scene are being shared on Russian social media. The governor of the Yaroslavl region confirmed the fire, but stated that the incident was not related to a drone attack, and that it was of a technological nature. The Novoyaroslavl oil refinery is one of the largest enterprises in Russia in the field of oil processing, handling about 15 million tons of oil annually. Strikes by Ukrainian drones have led to a record crisis in Russia's fuel market. Oil refineries have lost 38% of their capacity. This was reported the day before by RBC, citing the agency Stuzhel. Gasoline production in Russia has decreased by 1 million tons, and the deficit in the domestic market has reached about 20% of demand. The scale of downtime at the refineries has become historically unprecedented. It has surpassed the records set in August and, of course, the previous records from May 2022. According to SIAL's calculations, about 70% of the downtime was the result of drone attacks. The autumn session of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe is taking place in Strasbourg. There, strong statements are being made about punishing Russia, and words of support are being expressed for Ukraine. From a special tribunal to pressure on the Kremlin or Russian provocations against NATO, European leaders are discussing the key points. My colleague Oleg Borisov will tell you what's happening at the autumn session of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Oleg, greetings. The floor is yours.
Karel, greetings to you. I'm very glad to see all our viewers. Well, the news of this hour is that the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe has voted for a resolution on Ukraine. The resolution is titled by journalists as the need to step up efforts to free Ukrainian journalists held captive in the Russian Federation. This resolution was supported by an overwhelming majority. 128 delegates, members of the Council of Europe, voted in favor and thus supported this resolution. What is it about, and what does it call for? In turn, this resolution states that there is a general call to the Russian Federation to release 26 Ukrainian journalists who are still being held by the Russian Federation. Moreover, this resolution also addresses the need to record, document, and then forward to other relevant bodies the following statistics: that more than 800 crimes against medical personnel have been documented since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. 108 journalists have been killed, and, as mentioned earlier, 26 are still being held captive. It is also very important to note that present here are Ukrainian journalists who were successfully freed from Russian captivity, namely Isipenko and Kyliak. Dnipro Kyliak, in turn, also spoke about the fact that he is essentially a witness and proof of the crimes committed by the Russian occupiers, both against journalists and other prisoners and prisoners of war whom Russia continues to hold. This is the news of the hour. There is also an ongoing commission right now where the issue of compensation for the crimes committed by the Russian Federation against Ukraine is being discussed. By the way, in this resolution, which was voted for by 128 delegates, the fourth point specifically mentions Ukrainian broadcasting, namely the Freedom TV channel, which suffered from a missile attack at the beginning of this year. Let me remind you, the missile attack destroyed, or partially destroyed, the office of the Freedom TV channel, Ukraine's international broadcaster, and this case was also discussed in this context. Moreover, there were side events held here, where journalists from the Freedom TV channel gave a report regarding the attack on the channel and on Ukrainian international broadcasting. Today, it was officially voted on and included in the resolution that the Russian Federation is deliberately destroying media in Ukraine and detaining journalists, which also serves as evidence for the future prosecution of Russian occupiers and Putin personally. And it's also worth noting that today, within the walls of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, they are honoring the memory of Ukrainian soldiers and also remembering today's Defenders' Day. In turn, we received a brief overview, as well as opinions and perspectives from the Latvian side, from the Latvian Saeima, about what Defenders' Day means to them and what the Ukrainian armed forces mean to them as a whole. Let's listen to their direct speech.
They are the bravest people fighting for Ukraine, but at the same time, they are fighting for their own Europe, which actually means they are also defending Europe. I am immensely grateful to them for their courage, and I believe that they will win.
And also, returning to the resolution that the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe voted for today, it is considered and is indeed the first of its kind, where among all categories of Ukrainian prisoners of war, special attention is also emphasized and highlighted regarding Ukrainian journalists. We spoke with Yevgenia Kravchik, a member of the Ukrainian delegation and a People's Deputy of Ukraine, who was also a co-author of this resolution and who spoke today during the debates, defending this resolution. And here is what she said regarding how important this resolution is. Let's hear her direct speech.
This is
the first PACE resolution that specifically addresses this category of prisoners, namely Ukrainian journalists. And by the way, the European Court of Human Rights also singles out journalists as a separate category in its rulings, where it calls for the release of all detained journalists. PACE, having already voted on the resolution, calls for the release of all Ukrainian journalists, support for Ukrainian media, sanctions against those responsible for attacks on the media, and, in particular, the resolution mentions attacks on broadcasting.
And this week, the session of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe continues. As I mentioned earlier, the Ukrainian issue continues to be discussed here. And in turn, this is what is being discussed right now. This issue is also being addressed. By the way, there is a debate underway about launching a compensation mechanism for the damage caused by the Russian Federation. And right now, there is a lot of talk about transferring frozen Russian assets to Ukraine, specifically for Ukraine's recovery. There are still many questions that are being discussed and resolved. Once the debates and all these discussions are over, we will cover everything in our upcoming broadcasts. We will definitely share all the details for Freedom TV. Carolina, I'm handing it over to you in the Kiev studio.
Thank you, Oleg. Let me remind our viewers that we were joined by Oleg Borisov from Strasbourg. He talked about what the EU leaders are discussing at the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. NATO also supports the EU's initiative regarding drones. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stated this in Brussels before a meeting of the European Commission colleagues dedicated to defense issues. Ruda emphasized that while the alliance is still determining whether Russia intended to attack the airspace of Estonia and Poland, it is necessary to protect the skies.
We
must defend our skies, so the initiative to use drones is both timely and necessary. After all, in the end, we can't spend millions of euros or dollars on missiles to destroy drones that only cost a few thousand, so we need a drone law. But when it comes to Ukraine, that's our first line of defense. We help the Ukrainians because it concerns our values, as well as our collective security, our first line of protection. It's absolutely crucial that they keep fighting and that we continue to support them.
In Denmark's capital, Copenhagen, the leaders of European Union countries have gathered for an informal meeting. The summit is taking place at the Royal Palace of Christiansborg. It will continue for 2 days, after which there will be a meeting of the European political community. This is an intergovernmental forum that was created after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. On the agenda is the EU's roadmap for defense readiness until 2030. The discussion will focus on strengthening its own defense and providing assistance to Ukraine. It is planned that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy will address the meeting participants by a video link. Symbolically, on the eve of the summit, the president of Ukraine also announced the deployment of a Ukrainian mission in Denmark to share Ukrainian experience.
Our military has begun deploying a mission in Denmark to share Ukrainian expertise in drone defense. The team arrived to participate in joint exercises with partners, which could become the foundation for a new system to counter Russian or any other drones. Ukrainian experience is currently the most relevant in Europe. That's why it's specifically our experience, our specialists, and our technologies that can become the key element of the future European drone wall, a large-scale project designed to guarantee security in the skies. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.